session that I'm going to be talking with my guy Michael Stewart, and Michael is somewhat of a brother of mine through I don't know what, man. I guess that's just a story that needs to be told sometimes, right?
That's
Yeah. So I met Michael because Michael is married into the family of, and I have this term that is very relatable in my life, and you know me enough to where you will understand my white mother list.
Yes. That makes sense. I got you.
Yeah. So, Michael's mother-in-law
Yep.
is one of maybe my most beloved white mother. No shade to all my other white mothers out there. I love you dearly, I promise you. But man, Michael and I made a connection because he has continued to support my endeavors of Star Avenue CO and continues to support my public speaking business of Avenue Speak. And he's a really incredible guy. And we share a similar interest in martial arts. And Michael teaches Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is something that I'm just such a fan of, right?
Yeah.
So I had to get you in the chair so that you can talk about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and life, liberty, blah, 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 pursuit of happiness, whatever that looks like for you, right?
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, man.
Thank you for having me here, man.
For sure, man.
All right. So yeah, I'm Michael. I'm an assistant coach at ACBJJ in Cushing, Texas, right outside of Nacogdoches. It's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing that I've been instructing for just the last few months, but I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for the last almost 7 years. It goes back into, I started while I was in the military, right? So one thing about me, I'm an Air Force vet, so I served from 2013 to 2019. And while I was in, you kind of get sent up and you're by yourself, you don't really have anything to do, like wherever you go. I was stationed in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't have anything to do, and so these senior NCOs, senior non-commissioned officers, while I was in, kind of like steered me towards jiu-jitsu, right? Because they were interested in it,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted more people to practice with.
Right.
And so like, hey, come try this, and finally, I think after several months, I finally gave it a go, and I got my butt kicked. Right.
Right.
And so I was like, well, that was cool. I don't like that.
Cool that you got your butt kicked.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like getting
right.
my butt kicked. So okay, here's what I'll do. I'll start practicing more, right?
Right.
And so I did. I practiced with those guys like during lunch every day at work, and then I went and found a school in Cheyenne, Wyoming.
Right.
And the neat thing about that for me was, again, you're stationed wherever they send you,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have the same network that you had back home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was like a second network for me, because I had some guys at work and obviously those guys, they got me into it, but that's usually just at work. It's where that network is.
Right.
This gave me a network outside of work, friends that like we would just go hang out and we would go and do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, man, sometimes there needs to be that separation from work and what you do outside of work anyway. It's
Absolutely.
like sometimes the most unhealthy thing to do to hang out with coworkers.
Exactly.
So yeah, I get that.
But there's definitely a time and place. Sometimes I was holding all these guys. Sometimes I need to be completely separate from it.
Yeah.
And that's what that was for me. At least at first, right? Because at first, it's this brand new like shiny toy. You're just playing with it.
It's that infatuation phase.
Right.
Probably just call it the honeymoon phase.
Basically,
right?
yeah. And that's what it was. Because you go and you're learning all these brand new things, and because me personally, I'd never heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu before this.
Mm-hmm.
I barely knew what MMA was.
How long ago has that been?
2014. I want to say.
Okay.
So a little while.
Yeah.
Coming up on 7 years. It'll be 7 years in August, I want to say.
Right.
So yeah, but at the time I had no clue. They were like, yeah, come try this thing, and I was like, okay. I thought we were gonna do like, sound like karate, right? And I'm like, we're gonna do some karate.
Right.
Not at all.
the same.
No, it's all on the ground. You're just baffling and choking people up.
Yeah.
And joint locks and stuff like that. And so it was really cool. Like I said, shiny new toy is exactly what it was for me.
Yeah.
The deeper I got into it though, the more it, I guess it like leaked over, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about it, I don't know how in depth I want to go with this, but as a martial art, it being grappling and like you're on the ground and everything, it's a lot. It gets to where it can be a lot slower paced than what you would expect a fight to be generally.
Right.
Which is a good thing, right? Because
Right.
you want to control it and you want to be safe
Mm-hmm.
from an assailant.
Well, there's a lot of like pauses and stationary movements, but then paying attention to Where's my finger right here?
Exactly.
What angle is my wrist in right now?
That's
where
right.
is the, it's just.
Yeah. You want to know where you're at, where they're at, you know where you're going. Hopefully they're going where you want them to go.
Right.
But what it was is that kind of like stopping and thinking, or that like process of either thinking through something or thinking through how to reverse something, depending on which side you're on, really leaked over into my everyday life. Because anytime you have a problem, or anytime if you have an argument with somebody or something like that, it really behooves you to pay attention and kind of get to that intricate, like, okay, where did I mess up? Where did they mess up? What can I do to fix this?
How does it shift this way?
Right. And so it kind of just started to take over. Right? Like all the time, you're just like, I'm just sitting there thinking about like life and jiu-jitsu.
So then you had a new shiny new toy.
Basically. it was
You had a new toy.
It was almost like your mom buys you that like toy robot whenever you're 5. Then you get a little bit bigger, and you get the bigger robot whenever you turn 8.
Yeah.
This is the bigger robot.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like it was just like a bigger, better jiu-jitsu for me, I think.
You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
It's nothing to do with the bigger robot at all.
That's okay.
But for some reason, it reminded me of Jingle All the Way. The movie
Oh,
Jingle All the Way
yeah.
with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes.
Right? Because when that movie came out, so I saw it twice in movie theaters, right? Me and my mom went and saw it the first time, and then my mom dropped me and my dad off the second time. So I was always a big action figure kid when I was little. So when I got back in the car after seeing it the second time, my mom literally had the Turbo Man action figure doll for me. So talk about shiny new toys. Just randomly jogged my memory.
Hey, that's where I was at. I was thinking the same thing, like that toy that my mom bought me, like when I was little. It was literally like just a little red robot action figure that like roamed around the house.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's crazy how your brain does that to you. You're
Just jogging memories, man.
Yeah, the little snaps that
Funny
you're firing
things
off.
together. Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, it definitely started to leak over. Especially, I guess because of my background and what I did. It just helped me so much in so many different ways. It helped me, like obviously you and my wife.
Yeah. Man, I forgot to turn the anchor on. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So my wife, it really, it's like while I was in, especially early on, we were doing long distance and all that. That gave me, it gave me patience, and it also gave me something to, I guess, take my time while I was away from her.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Plus, just being up there and being, doing what I was doing, it was really stressful. And that was, again, kind of my go-to. It helped me have something to focus on. Helped take my mind away from all the stressors of life, really. It's always done that, from the beginning until now. So now, I'm out of the military now. We moved back here to Nacogdoches, Texas. I'm going to school full time, and we have a young child.
Right.
And so, as amazing as all that stuff is, it's still stressful, right? Well, all these big changes, moving to a different state, complete, job change and everything like that. I still have jiu-jitsu, right? Because I found this school in Cushing, Texas, that's ran by a Marine veteran, so we kind of had that going with us. And he invited me, with open arms. He was like, "Hey, come, practice with us, see if you like it."
Right.
He knew that I came from up there, and it was like another network, Because I came, and it's a little different moving and going back to school as an adult, right? Because I'm 29 now. I'm not 18, 20. But that was kind of like my safety net when I came down here, right? Was okay. All this stuff's changing, everything's going crazy, but I still got jiu-jitsu, and I still have people that I'm gonna share this with. And so, I going back to SFA, I dove straight back into that as soon as I could. And like I said, that's my little pool of stress is just relieves whenever I get into that environment. So I don't know, and then of course, that was 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. No, it's about 2 years. I think so, 19 to 21. Yeah. So about 2 years. I've been with them now, and again, network. Some really good friends I've met there. It's one of those things like you spend all your time choking each other out and stuff like that. So something about it makes you want to be best friends with those people. You're like, yeah, we're friends now. You know, we hurt each other on these days of the week. You know, it's whatever.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things like you do anything for them. You know, they do whatever they could for you, and so it's I don't know. It's been like the one straight constant aside from my family.
Yeah.
Just the whole time.
Right.
And so I've been with him for 2 years. Just recently he asked me to come on as an instructor and help, teach the classes with him, which is really cool. Different though, way different. There's something to be said about, I guess, being responsible for other people's growth, right?
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, usually people stop with that statement and saying being responsible for other people.
Yeah.
Right. But intentionally, because that speaks to your intention in understanding the role that you play as a teacher.
Right.
Because you intentionally said that, okay, I am going to allow people the opportunity by giving them wisdom and understanding so that they can grow.
Right.
Right. Because if you say being responsible for other people, it kind of gives way that you're just babysitting.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's like you're just looking after them and then giving back to their parents for a little bit. Right.
Absolutely.
But when you say you're responsible for other people's growth, it literally is saying that, okay, when you're here in this space with me, I'm going to teach you things that allow you to gain the opportunity to grow as a person in your journey in life, or go towards your goals in jiu-jitsu, so that you can just progress, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like something you touched on too. You said, or you kind of touched on the idea of not just the jiu-jitsu aspect, but the life aspect, right?
Yeah, man.
Because absolutely, like I'm teaching these guys, whatever choke or whatever joint lock or whatever sweep takedown, whatever it is. But really, at the end of the day, like the jiu-jitsu's on the mat. But like I would like to think that I haven't affected them after they walk out of the door of that gym too. Yeah. So if it's just if it's kind of like me and it's like, oh man, I needed that, and all the stress just kind of relieved, or man, that was it's really complicated, but I figured it out. Like,
yeah, it's like that example of problem solving too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I mean that's such a huge aspect, I think, of the martial art, and I think most martial arts in general. I don't want to speak for those. That I think a lot of martial artists wind up being better at because we're so focused on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's my big goal now that I think about it, is to have an effect once they leave.
Right.
And to hope that they want to come back.
Right.
So hopefully they're not just like, man, that guy sucks.
Yeah.
They swap out and never come back. Or maybe skip the days that I'm teaching.
I don't think so.
No, I hope not. No, it seems good. But no, I don't know where to go from there. It's such a big part of my life, I think, at this point. Which is weird, right? Because like that's not necessarily I want to do it for the rest of my life, but that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I want to do jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life, but I don't. Like I have other things that I want to do as well. And that being said, this is such a huge part that I think it's just gonna come right along with whatever I wind up doing.
Right.
So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. I've had this season recently, man, to where people call me the drummer, or a drummer in NAC, right? Like the drummer in NAC.
Right.
And that now is like the most annoying thing in the world to me.
Oh no.
Like it frustrates the crap out of me. Because it's not the only thing that I do, right?
Right.
So then, like, I mean, granted, yes, I came to Nacogdoches and then showed the whole entire city of Nacogdoches what hand drumming is by doing Star Avenue CO and the nonprofit, because that's how I introduced the nonprofit, right?
Right.
But there's other things that I do.
Yeah.
So like knowing that there's other things that I do, and then that's like one of the few things that I do that is celebrated so highly, which it is humbling, utmost humbling, right? That I recognize is that, but it's just really annoying.
No, I kind of get that. One, I guess the closest thing I can relate to that, again, I guess it tie back to Jiu-Jitsu or BJJ. When I was getting out of the military, I made all these plans. I was going back to Texas. I was going back to school. My plan is, I'm gonna come back, finish my bachelor's degree, and try to go to medical school, right? Because I want to be a surgeon when I grow up. Because I I feel like I'm still a kid sometimes. So I had these big plans, you know. We just had a baby. I was gonna go and try to be a doctor, and like all they would talk about, like during my going away and everything, which wasn't bad. Like it was great, right? Because we kind of had that humor thing going around. Was the jiu-jitsu aspect? Like, oh, he chokes people out and like stuff like that, right? It's like, oh, you're gonna go and do jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, I mean, yes, but that's not my plan. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely an aspect that I want to carry with me for the rest of my life. Well, we'll get to that later. We'll get that word figured out. But it's not my goal. And so it seemed like they really kind of just, not that it's their responsibility, like, oh yeah, he's gonna go do this. But it seemed like it was so detracted from, like I'm not getting out of the military to go do jiu-jitsu. I'm getting out of the military to go try to do something better for my life or something better for my family's life. But, it just wasn't taking off. And I not that that's a big deal, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still doing it. But it was definitely, it kind of, I guess, creeped into my brain a little bit. Kind of the same way I think is the drummer thing for you.
Yeah. Most definitely. So, what do you get out of teaching? Because you've talked about what you hope that your students get out of you teaching.
Right.
But what do you get out of teaching?
So I think it's a twofold answer. I think so. There's a selfish and an unselfish answer to that question. So from the selfish point of view, I'll touch on that first because I think it's a little bit easier. I think it's gonna make me better, right? And by that I mean it's gonna make me better at jiu-jitsu because I'm gonna have to understand it better to convey it to other people, or I'm gonna have to link those thoughts more stronger than I would if I was just trying to figure it out myself. But also, it makes me better. I am teaching people. You're trying to convey, you're trying to make people understand that kind of thing. So like, that's not just a jiu-jitsu thing. You can teach people how to ride a bike. You can teach them how to file their taxes. Teach them how to this, that, and the other. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people miss out on is being a teacher and a mentor. Right. So I guess that I think that's pretty selfish in a sense, not a traditional sense, but in a sense, right? Like it teaches me to be a mentor, and it teaches me to refine my art. If that makes sense. The unselfish side of that, I think I get I guess it's not selfish, but what I'm gonna call the unselfish side of that is I like the feeling of whenever somebody gets something, right? And so if I'm teaching them, let's say a sweep, trying to get somebody off you or something like that from a self-defense perspective, that you can see it. You can see it when they get it. And that's such a cool just experience that you share with them, right? Because they're like, oh man, I got it. That's awesome. Like, oh, it works. And I'm like, of course it works. You got this. You're doing it. Like, I knew you could do it. And it's such an uplifting thing. But anyway, I guess that's your twofold answer to that question of what I get out of it.
Yeah. So what is the most commonly used hold in jiu-jitsu?
Definitely, well, it's going to sound kind of silly. Probably...
Well, Brazilian jiu-jitsu,
right.
Because there's multiple...
Yeah, there are several, Brazilian, I think they started to do like an American jiu-jitsu, which is like a stem off of that. It comes from Japanese jiu-jitsu, which there are a few of. But for Brazilian...
There's Japanese jiu-jitsu?
That's where, so jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu came from the parent arc of judo. Right, and not the judo you think about. Like you think about like Olympic judo, and it's pretty much all throws and like maybe an arm lock or something like that. But like if you think about judo as in like what the samurais used back in the day, it was your takedowns. It was your grappling on the ground. It was a lot more self-defense, even with weapons and things like that.
Yeah.
And so like parent judo kind of split off into a bunch of different, like there's Japanese like Kamshin and traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and actually judo that we know today would all kind of stem from that, at least from what I understand. It seems like. I don't know, most common hold, I would have to say like, I would not necessarily hold, but a position. Definitely like your mounted position and like your back mounted position. Like, you know, you talk about MMA, right? Like you're watching UFC on the weekend. You always see somebody on top trying to like stay on top, right? And you know, do their punches or get to where they can choke them or whatever. It looks like they're just sitting on top, but there's a lot that goes into that.
There's so much.
It's a lot. There's a lot of hooks that you're doing with your legs, and you know, bracing and hip motion just to keep them where, you know, keep your opponent where you need them to be, and to, you know, if they do move, you either move with them, or if you want them to move into a worse position, you got to know how to let them move without moving you. It's one of those. It's doesn't look that complex, but it is. If that makes sense.
It is. It really is.
So I'd say definitely like a mounted position. I'm gonna go with that as an answer.
Okay. Yeah, because I know whenever I watch MMA, like UFC or whatever, and I often watch a lot of the Jiu-Jitsu competitions. Like actually, one of my favorite Jiu-Jitsu fighters right now is Dylan Dennis.
Oh yeah.
I love Dylan Dennis. I actually watched him before he joined Conor McGregor in training.
Right.
Like maybe a couple of years before that, and then I'm a Conor McGregor fan anyway, period. But that's a whole other story.
He's definitely good at what he does.
He is. Which is
right now he's good at making money.
Which is more than fighting. It's like not included in the fighting. He's good at selling himself, man. Kudos to Conor.
Absolutely. That's what I wanted to get at with that, man. He has kind of branded himself so well.
His name is a business, right?
Yeah, like anything he does.
The crazy thing about Conor, right, is so if you watch some of the YouTube videos for like MMA stuff, like UFC, right? Half of them will be some other company's video, right?
Right.
But then the other half of them, like literally the majority of the videos covering MMA content, whether it's UFC or whatever, is all the Mac Life. Like it's got the Mac Life logo on it, which means Conor McGregor is getting paid off of that video.
Right. Yeah, dude.
Like it's everywhere. He's got his whiskey, which I'm sorry, Conor, it's not that great.
Oh no, I haven't tried it.
Because it's really not. I mean, it's okay.
It's whiskey,
I
right?
would rather have other whiskey than that one, right? But it is what it is, right? I mean, you're drinking the name rather than the taste of the whiskey anyway.
That's true. I'm sure it's so.
I hope he kind of gets that altered a little bit, maybe changes it a little bit. I don't really know. Maybe he really likes it. Maybe he's not going to change it because he really likes it.
Right. He's like, I'm from where that stuff came from. I should know.
Right.
You know, he just pushes us out there. Right?
Maybe he calls me a peon. I hope you tag me in it if you call me a peon. I don't really care. Just tag me in something, Conor.
Oh yeah. Oh no, Conor McGregor tagged me.
You know what I mean?
On social media.
Oh no, Conor called me a peon, douchebag. Yeah. I will post the fact that he called me like that. Yeah, man.
You know, come find my school and just kick my butt all over the place. But it'll be fine. It'll be okay. You know?
Hey, man. Whatever.
You know, it'll be great. He's such a character, though, man. He's got such a big character, right? And that's his thing. Like, I feel like in real life, he's probably really cool to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he'd be pretty chill.
I feel that way, too.
But watching him, no. I would stay, like, he's somebody in the bar I would stay as far away from as possible. In persona, right? Like, how they depict him. When in reality, I'm almost positive he and I would be in a party.
Yep.
It's weird.
And so in the last UFC fight that he was in, right? Did you see the coverage?
I watched
had
some of the slices of it.
He came up to the UFC event on a yacht.
Oh yeah, that figures.
Right. And they had a whole conversation about the yacht, right? Like, man, but listen, in order to have a yacht, you gotta have like X amount of money times over what the yacht costs, because it's like you got like your crew has to live in the yacht,
right? And
you have to have gas to drive the yacht at all points in time, and yada yada yada. And I was just like, holy mess.
Yeah, that's one of those random things I've started looking at lately was yachts. I don't
really?
know. Yeah, it's one of those things that, like, I guess the social media algorithms decided I need to look at yachts.
That's like the random duvet that's in your house.
Yeah, right? Yeah, they're like, you know what? This guy needs to look at yachts. And so I'm looking at yachts, and it's like, yeah, $13 million yacht. And I'm like, yeah, $13 million yacht.
Right.
You know what I'm never going to have?
A yacht?
A $13 million yacht. That's exactly right.
I might not ever have a yacht.
Yeah,
Ford.
yeah, I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, maybe a nice car. spar one day. That'd be great. Like that's about as far as I'll ever get, probably.
It's like, dang. Now let me look at a Ferrari.
Maybe that'd be easier.
It's like,
It's way more affordable.
wouldn't it though? I mean, it's a Ferrari, but still, it'd be so much cheaper, right?
It's like
It'd be yeah, that's wild, man.
It's crazy. It's like what 1/50th or something that it costs or something. Yeah, I don't even think about it. A lot less.
Yeah. So if you hear noise in the background, that's the other people that are really rude, and I hope she's still here, so she hears me talking about it. I'll probably just text her later, but anyway, it's okay.
I don't know. What else you got for me, man? What else would you like to talk about today?
Man, I'm talking about what the heck you gonna do with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 2 years from now or 10 years from now?
Let's see.
Because you teach now, right?
I do teach.
Do you still take classes?
Yes. So I take more classes than I teach.
Do you?
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah. So I'm an assistant coach, and so what that means for me is, obviously with school and everything, I don't get to go as much as I want to go. I would love to go 5 days a week, 6 days a week. I'm lucky if I get 2 or 3 days a week. But what that usually looks like is I teach every other Thursday. That's the way I've got it going right now. So you know what, a typical month I'll teach maybe 2 classes, but I'm there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then some weekends. So let's say 10 classes ish a month. So 1/5 of my time, 1/5 of my time is teaching, and the others being a student.
Okay.
But right now, I'm a purple belt, and so what that means, without going too much into it, it's white, blue, purple, brown, black, and then there's a bunch of degrees in the black. Oh, no, that's neither here nor there. So I am the first advanced belt. You have your beginner, you have your intermediate, obviously, right? That's your white belt and your blue belt. From purple on up are considered advanced, which makes me feel good, but it's really, only halfway there.
Right.
So I guess in the next 2 years, I'm teaching, learning, trying to go, not focusing on that next belt, but definitely I hope in 2 years I'm either tapping on the door of a brown belt or I have my brown belt. I guess get more into teaching. I definitely want to start. I would like to start teaching maybe some more classes if I can get the time to. Maybe get to the point where I can do some private lessons and stuff like that. Just because I think that'd be kind of neat. It's different teaching to a group of people rather than teaching to a single person. I feel like there might be something worth getting out of teaching singularly, and so I'd be interested in venturing into that. 10 years, let's say 5 to 10 years. Definitely hope for that black belt, right? Like I hope I'm still doing this. I hope I'm still at least as active in it as I am right now, if not more. Definitely hoping to be a black belt in 5 to 10 years. Because like I said, it's not my main priority, but it's definitely on my list.
Right.
I want to be 98 years old, rolling with people on a jiu-jitsu mat. Like that's yeah. I guess that's the ultimate goal when it comes to that. I think. Because one neat little fact, I guess. So the guy most famous for bringing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to America is Helio Gracie.
Yeah.
He's the grandfather of all the Gracies that are
right
now, or father/grandfather. That man, I can't remember. I think he lived to be 95. And he was doing jiu-jitsu until he died.
Really?
Yeah, like he was just, I guess, just staying into it, staying flexible and everything like that, and just not quitting, kept him active.
Right.
A 95-year-old man.
Right.
There are videos of him rolling around. So his grandsons, Henner and Hiron, they run the academy in Torrance, California right now.
Right.
There are videos of him rolling around with them whenever they were like 2, and at that point he's already probably in his 70s, 80s, and then there's videos of them as adults, and he's
still rolling,
training with them, rolling with them, and I'm like, that's just insane.
So how many generations of Gracies are? Because I lose it after. Oh my, because I know Henry, and then
so
man, I don't even know the family because I know
I can't remember who his dad is.
Well, the one that sticks out in my head right now is Kron Gracie.
He's their cousin. Henry's Kron's cousin.
Okay. Kron Gracie. Yeah.
So they're the same generation, and they're Helio's grandkids, and then they're the dads. I wish I could remember their names. It's a lot of R names, and it's really hard to keep them straight. But it's I want to say Helio and Carlos were brothers, right? and then they had sons, and then they had grandsons, and now Henner, Hiron, I don't think Crone has any kids yet, but Henner and Hiron for sure have kids, and so you've got Helio, the dads, Henner, Hiron, all those guys, and then the children, which they're young, they're like 2 to 4. So, but I think some of them are already starting to do jiu-jitsu as those little kids, you know.
Right.
So I'll say there's at least 4, and I'm sure somebody will come and correct me later, but that's okay. A bunch of them though, man. And then Helio, like all of them had a bunch of kids. So there's a ton of Gracies running around, and they're all. It's crazy too. Like I always made the joke when I was a white belt and even the blue belt that every Gracie is born with a purple belt around their waist, because they're all just amazing. It's insane.
Like right when they start.
Basically, like
because they've seen it for so long.
Exactly.
Right?
Like they literally start like as babies learning jiu-jitsu, and they just keep doing it the whole way up.
Yeah.
And I'm so jealous of that because I didn't find out about it until I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine.
That's late, man.
I know.
That's late. That's like it's so very late to find out, right?
Especially for like if you think about it from a sport aspect.
Yeah.
Because if you think about like I would have loved to have found out about it when I was like 15 to 16.
Yeah.
Maybe start competing a little bit, turn 18, start competing for real.
Yeah. Well, because so with each martial arts, right, you have sport, the sport aspect of it, and then you have
like the combatives or something.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And so, obviously, that's something you want to be well-rounded in it. So, like, for me, I focus a lot more on the self-defense and combatives aspect, just because I come from a military background. Like, it was important. Just in case you want to be able to defend yourself. You never know.
You want to be able to choke someone out that comes up and throws you off your lawnmower in broad daylight.
Maybe. You never know. You never know. But at the same time, you do want to be sport worthy, and so like I guess the big ticket for that in my brain is, I want to be able, and from a self-defense aspect, if you get proficient at jiu-jitsu, in theory, 90-95% of people out there you'll be fine against, right? And it's probably I'm going to be very, very nice and say 1 to 2% of people are bad people. So in my brain, more than likely, anybody that tries to do something terrible to me or my family, I'll be fine against. Now, for the sport aspect of that, that's people that train with you, or train the same art as you, and so that's you trying to be good against other people that know the same things that you know. You know, and having to know like all the little tricks. I guess it's like
they get used to your tendencies.
Exactly.
All of your reaction habits of it's like this person put their hand here, so I'm gonna do this, and then next time.
Or it's even like if it's somebody in the same school as you, it's like Mike likes to do the baseball joke. It's like, all right, I know to defend the baseball joke because he's gonna go for it, or
I know when he's gonna do it.
Yeah, he's like, yep, he's setting up for it, time to block. Or he's really, he loves the Kimura, so he's gonna go for Kimura luck. I'm gonna focus on blocking that Kimura. So that's different methods of thinking for sure. Because it's crazy to think about. I talked about the white belt, the blue belt, all the way up. From a combative standpoint, like your self-defense aspect, I think that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is unique in the sense that as soon as you get that first belt, like that blue belt, you are self-defense ready, right? Like I think I can fairly confidently say that like any blue belt that I've trained with or have the opportunity to train can handle themselves in an altercation if they need to.
So it's white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt.
Yeah.
And then levels in between.
Yeah, there's a stripe system, and so you have your white belt, you get 4 stripes, your blue belt 4 stripes, all the way up, and then your black belt, it's up like 9 degrees after your black belt, and they start changing colors in there, but it's not that important. It's like coral and red, and it's crazy. But they're all considered more or less black belts. That's pretty much the gist of it.
So what does the process look like to transition from belt to belt?
Okay, so obviously the white belt, you don't really know anything, right? Like you're walking into the school day one. So your goal, I think, as a white belt is to just literally learn how to defend yourself. And that looks like controlling an opponent, right? And not necessarily just controlling an opponent, but not necessarily being as attackable, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't necessarily, like if I were to say, okay, Casey's a white belt, I'm gonna train him to be a white belt, I'm not gonna get you as proficient at submissions as I would, say, a blue belt or a purple belt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna work on your defense, I'm gonna work at your getting out of submissions, your sweeping somebody so they get off at the top of you, and things like that.
Oh no. Did we lose electricity?
It's fine, hopefully.
Whatever.
But yeah, so white belt, purely defense and trying to walk away from an altercation. Like you might not get anything in, but you're gonna go home.
Mm-hmm.
Blue belt is where you start kind of picking out those.
Amanda. She did something.
Is it a timer?
Maybe.
Talking to this timer.
Oh.
See if it'll.
I don't know.
Here, hold on. We can skip this one.
Does it work? Okay, cool.
Alright. So your blue belt is where I would say you need to start learning your submissions. Like that's where you're gonna start learning how to attack. And kind of just learning as much as you possibly can. Like you're gonna learn every move that you possibly can learn. From there, your purple belt is you start looking at all these tools you just got, right? You just got a hammer and a saw and a drill and a ruler or whatever, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, so I'm really good at this, I'm not so good at this. So I'm gonna focus probably on this, right? Like you start developing your game. Like, okay, I'm really good at top side control and going after like Americanas and Kimos. That's what I'm gonna focus on. So you start kind of developing like, instead of just well-rounded, which not to say that you shouldn't be well-rounded, but instead of like this big chunk of jiu-jitsu, you're like, okay, I'm gonna use this jiu-jitsu because that's what I think I'm gonna wind up being the best at. From there, it's literally, so brown and black, literally just kind of like sharpening those tools. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, like easy answer, but that's literally how it's always been described to me and kind of how what I've seen it turn out to be.
Yeah.
You just, after you have your game set, your focus is to get better at that game.
Right.
And just progress up.
Okay, that's like it. So are there like ceremonial things when you transition, when you get another belt?
No.
Like when the day comes that you achieve another belt,
Right.
What determines whether you had achieved that belt?
So this is, so I think other martial arts, they'll have like X amount of katas or something like that, or something like that you have to, do. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a lot more relaxed in that sense, because, if you're training a martial art with the same people, every day, they know how good you are, they know what you can do, and so especially from a black belt or an instructor coaching position, you know how good your students are, you know what they're able to do. So we don't do that. They pretty well know, like, okay, he's ready for his next belt. And so it's, usually they kind of try to make it like a cool thing. So it'll be like, if we have like a seminar, we'll have like a big, kind of open mat style, something like that. So, get as many people there and then have like the belt promotion ceremony to where they take off your belt, put the brand new one around your waist. But as far as like there's no set, you have to know how to do this, 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 and this. It's fairly open. Some places are
so you never know when you're really gonna attain your next belt.
Not really, no. Like there are theoretical timelines. Like in theory, I think it would be safe to say around like 2 years per belt. But not necessarily. Some people promote faster, some people promote slower.
Yeah.
I was a white belt for a long time because I was in the military, not able to train all that often. And then, I got married, so I took a break and stuff like that. Just life gets in the way. But I've seen people promote from white to blue in 10 months.
Right.
I promoted from blue to purple in less than 2 years. So it really just depends on the person, Like a 50-year-old walking into a gym is not going to promote necessarily, is not going to promote the same as an 18-year-old kid who's walking into the gym that day. It may go one way or the other though. We don't hold them to the same standards because I don't think that would be fair, right?
Yeah.
My back now is way different than it was when I was 18.
Ooh.
You know, if I was, you know, me at 50, it's gonna be something to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess the easiest thing to say is that the instructors know whenever you should promote, and they'll,
Right.
you know, they'll just promote you whenever they feel like you're ready.
So is there something to the word aspect? Because you paused for that a little bit earlier. Is that a thing or?
I like the word. I don't know.
Okay.
It's. No. Yes.
Okay.
It's just like my thinking word.
Okay.
You know.
Cool.
Kind of like I need to delve a little more into this, but.
Right. Right. Mine's sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
Yeah.
I like sabbatical.
I like sabbatical. One of the many. I have a few. I'm a fan of words.
I do. I like behoove.
Ooh.
That was a.
Yeah. I like the statement. It would behoove you, or it would behoove me. I like to say that to my clients and irritate the crap out of them.
That was our joke. So when I was in the Air Force, I was a NCO. I was a non-commissioned officer. I was a staff sergeant. And if you were trying to mess with an airman or something like that about something they should probably do, like,
it would
behoove you if you did X, Y, and Z, or something like that. Or it was always funny whenever you had to write like awards packages or evaluation reports or something like that. Because you could tell like the funny words to us, because it'd be like, oh, they spearheaded blah blah blah, and that would be like every bullet, like they spearheaded this, they spearheaded that, they spearheaded this. Like, pick another one. You know, we're like, no, that's good. So I don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Cool, man. Oh, hey, man. Thanks for joining AvenueChat
I think
and being a part of it.
This has been cool.
Yeah, man. It's a lot of cool conversation. Hey, listen, man. If you guys are interested in Michael's, where do you teach?
So again, I teach ACBJJ. It's adrenaline chamber Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's in Cushing, Texas.
Do that again.
Oh,
Go
slower.
slower.
Sorry. ACBJJ is the Adrenaline Chamber Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, you can try to find me on there too. It's just Michael Stewart or James Michael Stewart.
Yeah. Text me the link so that I can put it in the bio in the
You got it. I can do that.
so I can try to get you some more students or something.
Absolutely, and I guess so. Then also I should say, so the head instructor that I work with is Coach Tony Cruz. He's a Marine veteran. He's a 2-stripe, I believe now, brown belt. He's really good, and he's a really cool guy to work under. He's a good teacher.
Okay. Is that who you work under?
That's the guy. So I'm under him, and then he's under a black belt out of Denton, Texas, who is Professor Mark Redden, and he is a 3rd-degree black belt, and he is amazing.
Okay.
So we definitely have some good information to pass down.
Cool. Yeah. So there's some lineage there.
There is, and
Awesome.
I should have gone into that more, but it's definitely like it's
I think that's just a part 2 then.
maybe.
Yeah. Cool, man. For sure.
Helio's in there though, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
We'll talk about that later.
Definitely the part 2. That's awesome. Hey guys, thanks for checking out AvenueChat. There will be more coming soon. I'm trying to decide if I want to do this on IG Live. I think I might like it because it keeps me from having to edit things because I don't have a lot of free time in my life. Not that I'm lazy. I don't know. Am I lazy?
Not that I've seen.
I don't think I'm lazy. I work too much to be lazy.
Right.
But yeah. Hey guys, talk to you soon.